Sabrina 70s comic issue 47. Sabrina's washing the dishes in the sink the old-fashioned way, and she asks Hilda to get the door for her because her hands are wet. Why doesn't Hilda just zap the dishes clean all at once? Where's their washing machine? Hilda sees a door-to-door salesman who says that Hilda's about to be introduced to the greatest little cleaner in the world today. And Hilda says, "I already know her." That's sweet. I thought she'd slam the door right after that or use magic against him and the plot would ignore him. This comic would try to give you the impression that door-to-door salesmen are a lot more common than you'd think. I've never met one before. He says she needs to try Liquid Blast. And I can't blame Hilda for thinking it sounds dangerous. He pushes her out of the way to try to get at the roasting pan. Is that realistic? Since he got Hilda mad, she makes his Liquid Blast incinerate a part of the pan like acid. So he makes me giggle a little by running out of the house screaming, saying, "Run for your lives!" It turns out that all of his merchandise is ruined because we see a boom sound effect and a little explosion. Sabrina defends him as someone who is only trying to make a living. Hilda says that he was bugging her, and doesn't explain that he should get a job that doesn't bug people. Then Hilda's impressed by how she gets to see her reflection in the pan now, and realizes that he was pushing a good product, and she got a bottle for free. Doesn't this kind of advocate buying from door-to-door salesmen then? It's not portraying all of their products as bad. I don't know if that's a good message or not, because I never bought one. Sabrina calls her out on stealing, and she takes the spell off the stuff. Sabrina says that it was her joke and she should use it, and Ambrose zaps her so that she gets covered in soot. Because I guess he knew what she did. Maybe the salesman ran past them. At least the one AOSCH had a memorable design. In the next story, a kid runs in front of a car and Sabrina wants to save him with her magic. So how is she gonna screw up saving a kid from running in front of a car? The car is made to float above him, so it worked, and he asks how that happened. Then Della wastes time yelling at her for doing something good. Can't she just explain it's because she hates mortals already? Because if she saved a witch, I doubt she'd be complaining. That'd be really stupid of Della. I mean, it wouldn't make her look sympathetic for saying that one less mortal in the world would make it better, but at least it would make sense compared to this. Della threatens to take away her powers for 2 weeks. So what took so long? Sabrina doesn't want to have to do chores the normal way. And Ambrose tells Sabrina that she should go to Harvey to get cheered up and have a few laughs. Of course he's not reliable because they're trusting him. So there's another subversion. And then the opposite happens. It's the worst kind of comedy to overuse because it makes all of the plots predictable. He does nothing but be depressing, complaining about mundane problems. Sabrina says way too many things about positivity. If Della was seeing this, she'd complain, but instead she complains about a spell against her orders when all that happened was Harvey said spell. So now people weren't spying on her. How would Della think this? She cancels her powers for a whole month in a shitty forced ending. You'd think Sabrina would instinctively cast a spell to stop Della from evoking her powers, because she never thinks ahead. So she wouldn't think ahead to the fact that there would be consequences to her freezing Della in time. Skip this story. There's nothing good about it. I didn't even read all of Harvey's whining. I'll probably do it when editing the video though. In the comedy page, Hilda enters a potato sack race because she was so bored with her life and flies on a broom in it. That's cheating and exposing magic. And then in another one, Harvey thanks Sabrina for making his favorite onion soup. Then he coughs and is upset at a lizard's tail, which Hilda put in to improve the flavor for her. Well, it was nice of her to actually try to help her, unless she was doing that to bother Harvey. In the next one, Hilda kisses Sabrina on the cheek and thanks her for her best ever birthday present, a broom with a CB radio attachment. We'll never see it again. So maybe it got broken, struck by lightning. Hilda's lucky she never gets hit by it. Maybe witch brooms automatically have an anti-lightning force field spell. Why didn't she have a broom like that a lot earlier in all the time she's been alive? Then there's a comedy page where Hilda's at an antique store and someone says he adores anything old. And Hilda jokes, "I wonder if I should tell him I'm over 500 years old." So I hope she's here to sell things at the antique store. So that's how she makes money. Anyways, in the next comedy page, Hilda uses magic to design a special 70s computer. A gigantic machine that can have a birthday list in it for Sabrina. And in a second, the most desirable birthday present ever will come out for Sabrina. As I wonder how Hilda used magic to make this thing, with no knowledge of engineering. Maybe she did study in her spare time and zapped up all the parts out of sheer boredom with her life. Or just read a magic book. It's ironic that a magic book would have a zap up a computer spell. Sabrina is disappointed that her birthday presents are just stereotypical witch things instead of Hilda giving her what she'd want. Not a very good computer if it disappoints her. It just did what Hilda wanted because Hilda zapped it up. In the next comedy page, Sabrina has to tell Hilda that if she sings to her plants, she'll make them grow. Even after all the times Hilda talked to her plants already. Oh, singing's different from talking, so I guess that makes sense. Hilda's a bad singer, which makes sense since she had a stereotypical witch voice in the cartoon. She can understand what they're saying, and they're begging her to stop singing. I'm guessing this isn't canon and just a parallel universe, because this will probably never come up again. Why would some witches be able to understand plant vibes and not others? If it's because of a spell, Hilda would have cast it earlier. In the next story, Harvey's mother hopes he's not planning on taking a bath today. I saw her when he had a cold, so I hope she didn't change her design, because then it would seem like the artist doesn't care about her. He says that he's going to the movies with Sabrina, and she says that the water heater is broken, so they have no hot water. She's smart enough to get the idea that they could heat up water with the kettle, and Harvey's smart enough to realize that would take all evening. Predictably, this leads to Harvey asking to use Sabrina's bathtub. He sure is nice to agree to that. And Harvey sure is stupid to not lock the door. Zelda panics and says there's a strange man in their bathtub. Had she ever seen Harvey before? Maybe she only saw a glance of his shirtless body and then panicked and didn't want to look at his face. But you'd think she would immediately assume it was Harvey because what other man is constantly in her house? At least Hilda panicking is justified because she didn't see his face. But again, who else would it be? Hilda finds out the truth and teleports her to the city where a cop asks him what he's doing out there in only a towel. And he says, "That's what I'd like to know myself." It'd really suck for him if he got arrested for this. Sabrina would undo any consequences from this with magic. The first story is about a door-to-door salesman offering Hilda some cleaning product. And it turns out to clean the pan really well. After Hilda casts a spell to make his product act like acid temporarily, and caused him to run out of the house screaming with his products ruined. Fortunately, Sabrina calls her out on this, and Ambrose makes her get covered in soot. It's a refreshing twist to portray a door-to-door salesman's product as actually something you should buy. The second story sucks because it reminds us that Della wants every witch to be evil for no explained reason, and she robs Sabrina of her powers for weeks, which offsets how great it is that Sabrina was using her magic for good. And because Harvey says spell after he was cheered up, Della thinks she casts a spell without her permission and tells her she's not allowed to use them for a month. If she has good surveillance, why did she misunderstand Harvey? She can watch her on closed-circuit TV. That was mean. Then there's a story where Harvey's house doesn't have hot water for a bath. He asks Ambrose for it, and I guess Ambrose didn't tell Hilda because she'd get mad at him. And somehow Harvey gets in trouble because he was too stupid to just lock the door. He would have been punished anyways though, because Hilda wouldn't want him to do that. And he should have expected that. But still, the ants freaking out could have easily been avoided. And I was disappointed that Harvey's mother is still totally uninteresting. Why show her and not his dad then? At least she can come up with ideas.